Alright YouTube, what's going on? Welcome back to the channel. I wanted to make this video as a follow-up to a previous video I did covering some signs that you are a low-class individual. So today we're going to be talking about some indicators that make you a high-class individual. And I'm going to be making several videos on this topic because there's a lot of things to cover when it comes to this. So this particular video is going to focus primarily on certain aspects of behavior and personal conduct, as well as style and personal grooming. So if there's something in this video, or if there is something that I didn't mention in this video, it's probably going to be in a subsequent one. So without further ado, let's actually get into it and talk about some things that make you a high-class individual. The first thing that makes you a high-class individual is to have good manners. Treating everyone with courtesy, regardless of their status, is critical to being high class. And I alluded to this in the previous video I did, where I spoke about the example of walking into a nice restaurant and doing the exact opposite, where you go in, they get your order wrong or something, or they do something that you don't like, and then you end up yelling at the waiter, not leaving a tip, and making a complete mess in the restaurant, or what have you. Having good manners in a social setting and in interactions with other people is, again, critical to being a high-class person. For example, when I was on vacation for the holidays, I went out to a very nice restaurant with my mother and my aunt. And while we were there, we had to be on our best behavior. They had a dress code that we had to follow. And there were certain unwritten expectations for how everyone was supposed to behave in the restaurant. And I remember ordering an old-fashioned from the bar, and it came over, and to be honest, it was painfully average. It was not a very good old-fashioned. And I ended up calling the waiter over, and I very politely asked him to send it back to the bar and bring me a glass of wine instead to drink. And that interaction could have gone a number of ways, but I tried to go about it as respectfully as possible. That way I could get what I wanted. And I ended up not having to pay for that extra glass of wine, and I didn't have to pay for the old-fashioned either. And I can attribute that to the way that I went about that interaction and how I actually treated the waiter when we were going back and forth. I tried to be as respectful as possible, and it worked out in my favor. The point here is that you can attract more flies with honey than with vinegar. But moving on from that, the next thing that makes you a high-class individual is to be an active listener. So the problem with a lot of people in today's world, especially when it comes to interpersonal communication, is that they are only listening to you up until the point where they have enough information to respond to. So people will often interject when you are speaking and come in with their own response before you've actually fully formulated your thoughts and gotten them out there. And to me personally, when someone does this to me, it is mildly infuriating, to say the least, and it is just, in general, it's quite off-putting, and I do not like when people do that. And I've never come across a person who I personally have regarded as a high-class individual who does this. Every high-class individual who I know has practiced and is proficient in the art of active listening. So giving people your full attention, caring genuinely about their perspectives, and then listening to what they're actually saying makes you very high class. And the reason for this is because when you are actively listening to somebody, it makes that person feel valued. It makes them feel like they are, like what they're saying is important, and they come out of that interaction with you feeling a lot better about themselves than they otherwise would if you interrupted them to respond to one particular thing before they had fully finished their thoughts. So active listening is quite important if you want to be perceived as high class. The next thing that is important if you want to be perceived as high class is going to be composure. And this kind of ties into the first point that I talked about, where I was speaking about good manners. Having composure is, again, very critical to high class, because imagine every like social situation that you've been in. Have you ever seen somebody who is actually high class, who is actually somebody significant, having an emotional outburst in public, or acting like a Karen? Probably not. And of the people you have probably seen acting like Karens in public, do you really want to hang out with them? Do you really want them to be part of your social circle? Would you really enjoy having those people in your life? I imagine the answer is no. Now, I'm not saying you need to roll over and just take whatever life throws at you when something doesn't go your way. I'm not saying that at all. What I am saying is that if something doesn't go your way, or you experience something negative, you have the mental toughness and the emotional intelligence to handle it in a way that is A, socially acceptable, and B, still beneficial to you, that makes things a little bit better for you, focusing on what you can control and and then going forward from there. The next thing that I want to talk about is going to be gratitude. Express appreciation even for small gestures of kindness. Going back to the restaurant example, right? I was at a different restaurant very recently, and I ordered a French dip sandwich. French dip sandwiches are quite messy when you eat them, because you're dipping them in the sauce, and then that sauce gets everywhere. It gets all over your hands and your face. So it's quite a messy meal, and I didn't have any napkins on my plate, so I politely asked the waiter for some napkins so that I could wipe my face off and not look like a total slob. And they brought them over, and I just gave them a quick thank you, and then went on with eating my sandwich. Simple things like that, even if they are not that big or impactful, just expressing basic gratitude for acts like that can go a long way to making people feel good when they interact with you, which is, again, very critical. The last thing that I want to talk about in terms of behavior is going to be empathy. So a lot of the time when we are going about life, we don't realize that other people may be going through stressful situations or difficult times. And this is especially true when those people that we're interacting with are possibly, being nasty to us or to other people. We may not realize that, they're just going through the worst day of their life and they're hanging on by a thread. So it is really important for us to try and meet people on their level, and instead of looking down upon them as if they were inferior to us. And we have to try and be considerate of others' feelings when we are interacting with them. I always respect the individual who says what needs to be said and isn't afraid to say it. I think that having the courage to do something like that is quite important, because when it comes to something like injustices in this world, we need strong people in order to speak up and say what needs to be said. That way we can affect change, right? But at the same time, we have to do it in such a way that allows for us to connect with other people on a deeper level and then sway them to our side. That's going to be it for behavior. Moving on to aspects of style now. Something that makes you high class is to be well-groomed. And this should go without saying, but not everyone masters this critical skill. So being well-groomed is absolutely essential for being perceived as high class. Having clean nails, brushing your teeth, not having bad breath, not having excessive body odor, ensuring that you shower every day, and just covering the basics of personal hygiene will take you a long way and will help you be perceived as more high class. I don't think I've ever met anybody who was high class who smelled bad, who didn't brush their teeth or take care of their bodies. You only have one body, you got to take care of it, you got to look after it. The next thing is going to be understated elegance. Now, this is a bit of a subjective point, but I do personally believe that people who are truly high class don't necessarily feel the need to always show that off. And I alluded to this as well in my previous video about low class individuals. Buying an expensive item and then flaunting that to show off your wealth is kind of a low class thing to do, and it is an attempt to mask your true social status. So when you see someone who is high class out in public, they're not necessarily going out there and, like, you know, trying to advertise that to the world. They're not typically the person who has the giant Louis Vuitton logo on their sweater. They don't always have the newest Dior sneakers or something like that. What they do have is a timeless, well-tailored aesthetic, and they don't needlessly follow loud or obnoxious trends in fashion. The final thing that I want to talk about in this video is going to be attention to detail. And when I'm talking about attention to detail, I mean things in regard to your personal style, like a decent watch. If you're wearing dress shoes, then polishing those dress shoes, taking care of the leather, ensuring that the leather is conditioned, possibly even, you know, waxing the toe cap. That way you don't get scuffs on your leather. Stuff like that. If you're wearing sneakers, then ensuring that your sneakers are at least decently clean. I know this can be really hard with white sneakers. I have a pair of white sneakers next to me right now that are like totally messed up, and I try to not wear those out in public because it looks dirty. It is dirty. But you guys get the point. You know, a decent watch, clean shoes, clothes that are not stained, and, you know, having something like a tasteful belt to complete your look really ties your outfit together and will make you appear to be more high class. So that's going to be it for this video. I want to know your guys' thoughts down in the comments below. With regards to behavior and style, if there's anything you feel like I've missed or anything that you disagree with, let me know down in the comments below. I would really like to hear your opinions on this stuff because, you know, style, personal grooming, personal etiquette, all of these things are things that I care about genuinely, and I want to hear your guys' opinions on it as well. So I'm looking forward to having a discussion with you down in the comments below, and I hope to see you guys in the next video. Take care. Stay tuned for part 2.